What's up, visual storytellers? This is Clinton from God's Hand Studios, and today we'll be teaching on how to make your videos start to feel alive. Not just cut together, but moving with style, intention, and personality. By the end of this video, you will be able to animate text, images, or even video clips like a pro and make your storytelling way more dynamic. So let's just jump into it. What is keyframing? Keyframes are basically markers that tell Adobe Premiere Pro where an effect should start and where it should end. Think of keyframes as little checkpoints you place on a timeline. At each checkpoint, you tell Premiere Pro what you want to happen. For example, the position, scale, or opacity of your clip. Premiere then does the heavy lifting, creating the smooth motion between those points. Now let's discuss on how to add keyframes to your video editing. So you first select a clip and keyframes are added in the effects control. Like we said, effects and control, or effect control controls the effect. So each clip has what is called property. This is time remapping property. You can already see there is a keyframe on it at default. All video clips I've noticed comes with this keyframe in Adobe Premiere Pro. And you have the opacity property. So with this, you can increase or reduce how transparent your videos are. For instance, let's say we have this video. Underneath this video, let me enable it. So if I increase or reduce the opacity of this video at the top, you will be able to see what is beneath it. You understand? So opacity is also the property of a video clip that you can adjust in your effects and control. And we also have the motion. This one talks about the rotation, how you want your clip to rotate. The anchor point, this is where you want your clip to rotate from. For instance, if I rotate this clip now, it rotates from the middle. But if I move this anchor point to, let's say, this end now, and bring it down, let me bring it down so you understand more. So right now, if I rotate this clip, as you can see, it will not rotate from the middle again, it will now rotate from the bottom. This applies to anywhere you take your anchor point to. If you have to take it to the top, let me move it to the top so you see it better, and rotate it. You see, it's now rotating from the top and no longer the bottom. So that's anchor point for you. You also have the scale and the position. One thing you will notice that is consistent here is that each of these properties comes with this thing that looks like stopwatch, this stopwatch kind of thing. Now, to add keyframe animations to your video, you will make use of these stopwatches. These properties can easily be adjusted by you. For instance, the scale, you could use it to increase or reduce the size of your video. Then for the position, you can use it to move your clip either to the left or to the right. The one by the left is the X position and the one by the right is the Y position. So X means left or right, then Y is talking about up or down. So let's talk about animations now. For instance, my clip is at the middle, but I want it to move either to the left or to the right by the end of the duration of the clip. The tool I will use to do that is this stopwatch icon, which is either of these icons you see here. These are the tools you use to add animation in Premiere Pro. So let's quickly move over to the practical section. Now, before you start clicking the keyframes, you will first of all identify where you want your clips to start from or where you want it to end. So what I mean is that now, let's say I want my clip to move from the left to the right. That means in the beginning, I will move my clip to the position I want it to be added. And then click on my keyframe icon, which is this toggle animation icon. I click on it. Then I will now move to where I want the animation to end. This is not adding animation directly to the timeline. It's adding the animation on the clip. Meaning that after what you are doing now, after adding this animation, wherever you move your clip is where the animation will start or end. So here now, let me move my clip to where I want it to be by the end of the duration of this clip. By doing that, Premiere Pro is already adding these little checkboxes, or what will I call them. So this tiny diamond-like icon are the keyframes, are the actual keyframes we are talking about. They are the containers that carry the information you are giving to Premiere Pro. So if you move these checkboxes around, notice that your video will be moving, because you moving them, you're automatically moving the information. So let me first of all hit play so you see at the animation we've created. If I hit play now, you see what we are talking about. That's the hard work Premiere Pro is doing for us. What we need to do is to indicate where our video is starting and where it is ending. Then Premiere Pro will now fill in those gaps for us. And this is not limited to the position property alone. You can also do the same to the scale. For instance, let's say I want this clip to scale. I want this clip to grow bigger from the beginning of the motion, or from the beginning of the clip to the end of the clip. Now, you will first indicate to Premiere Pro. Know this, because this is mistake some people make in the beginning of their keyframing. You will first tell Premiere Pro the position, that is the initial position or the initial scale, before the animation begins. So we'll reduce the size to, we'll reduce the video size, and then click the keyframe button to tell the Premiere Pro that this is the initial size of our video before the animation. Then we go over to where we want the video to end. Let's say I want it to get bigger. Immediately the model face shows. Let's say here. Here. I will now scale it back to 100. You see, it has added our keyframes. Now let's hit play. You see, guys, that's the power of animation. With it, you can add motions to your video so your videos doesn't look static or boring. And you can also combine two keyframes at once. So for instance, let's combine position, scale, and rotation keyframe together. Now let's say we want to move our clip to here and then scale it down to around 19 and then rotate it. Let's rotate it 180 degrees. Turn it upside down. Now let's say we want this clip to go from being small and flipped to growing to its normal size and position here. All we need to do is to add keyframe to any of the properties you want animated. Then the same thing, go to where you want the animation to end and then reset them to the way you want them to be and hit play again. You see, guys, that's the power of animation. And whenever you want to disable animation, let's say you are okay, you no longer need the animation and you want to disable it, you could just hit this keyframe or toggle animation icon again, and it will remove the keyframes on the clip. And now you don't have any keyframes again on your clip. Let's reset it. So right now we'll be talking about keyframe properties. These are little minor adjustments you make to your keyframes to make it look more interesting. Because by default, Premiere Pro moves things in a straight robotic way. But we don't want robotic edits. We want smooth and cinematic moves. So for instance, let's discuss some of these properties we are talking about. Let's start with the ease in and ease out. That is to make your keyframes smoother. Let's repeat our animations again. Let me move it to this place again. And you can also move these things from the screen, by the way. Let me hit the toggle animation of the position. And let's say from here, I want it to be at the middle, or I want it to be at the end. Let me make an obvious movement. I will move it directly from the screen. And notice if I release now, it will add my animation for me. That's my diamond toggle animation. And that is it. So if I press play now, You can see this is moving in a robotic way. Let me bring it closer so you understand the effect much more. Let me play it so you see what I'm talking about. You see, it's simply moved from left to right. Now, objects in real life don't move this way. Let's make it much more interesting by selecting the both keyframe, right clicking and add ease in, then select it again, right click on it again and add ease out. Now see what Premiere Pro has created for us. We can now see this curve here. By the way, let me hit Ctrl Z. Ctrl Z is to undo an effect. Let me hit Ctrl Z so you see the way it looked like before. Okay, so now you see our animation was like that because it was in straight line. You can see it's just a normal basic straight line. But let's select the two keyframes. Right click ease in, then right click on it again, ease out. So now you see that we have more of a curve than a straight line. So this curve is what will add the smoothness we need. First of all, let me hit play. And you can see it started a little bit slower and it sped up in the middle, then it gradually came to an end. Let me make it more elaborate so that you can see it. Let me extend it. Okay, so let me play it again. I don't know whether you saw it, but if you pay close attention, you notice that it was a little bit slow in the beginning. It got faster in the middle and it landed slowly. Let me exaggerate it now by dragging these things closer. I'm using these lines here to adjust the animation. So let me press play now. You can see, you notice this kind of movement in motion graphics a lot. So if I hit play, it will start slowly, it will speed up in the middle, and it will go to the end slowly. So let's say with this now, I can also animate it so that it starts very fast by moving this thing now. With this now, it will start very, very fast, then slowly through this curve. The peak is showing the speed of the motion. So through this curve, what I'm simply telling it is that you are starting very, very fast, then you will slowly land at the ending. All right, so now let me hit play. Let me first adjust this one. Okay, let me hit play now. You notice that the clip started very fast, then it slowly landed in the middle. So that is what easy ease can do to your keyframes. In order to explain this with a real life object, I'm going to animate this circle so you understand better what I'm saying. Okay. The reason why the initial keyframing in Premiere Pro looked like a robotic movement is because it's not what is consistent in the real world. Think of a bouncing ball. At the point where you release it, it will gradually increase in speed till it gets to the floor. And the peak speed, which is the maximum speed, is right before it hits the ground. So that is an example of ease in and ease out animation. So for instance, let's take this circle to be a ball and let's animate it. Let me come here and create a keyframe. In the beginning, I want it to be here. Then by the end, I want it to be at the base of this place. Okay, let me hit play now. It's too slow. Let me bring it closer. Yeah, you see, just by looking at it, you can already tell something is wrong. This is not a real life motion. Okay, so now see what we'll do. I'm going to come to the beginning of this keyframe. Let me move this much closer, please, so you see what it looks like. You can see it's looking robotic. I'm going to come to the beginning of the keyframe and I will right click and select ease out, which means slowly go out. And let me play. You can see something is really happening. Something else we can do is to come here just at this place and move this line out so and make it more interesting. Let's hit play. You can see it's gradually looking like the real world object. Let me bring this thing much closer. You see, this thing looks now like more like what you see in real life. So I can increase it to exaggerate it more. Exaggeration is part of the principles of animation. By the way, guys, there are 12 principles of animation, but I won't be diving into it because this will get you much more confused. But learn these ones we are talking about. If you perfect these ones, it's going to make your editing much more smoother and better. It's going to give you a sweeter flow in editing. So let me hit play again. So it looks much more like what you see in real life. So, but the only thing lacking now is that if it's real life, if it falls, it's supposed to bounce. So let's do that now. Let's create that bounce. From here, it falls and we want it to bounce. So immediately, maybe I'm going to move it to the top a bit. Then I will copy this particular toggle animation, that's the part where it's on the floor, and move it over. So let's play it again now and see what it looks like. Alright guys, you can already see that our animation is getting much more lively. One more thing we can do to make it look much more lively is that we'll repeat the step we took here. Remember, when it's going from top to bottom, at the point is at the slowest, but at the bottom, getting to the bottom is at the fastest, or is at the peak. So we'll right click on this toggle animation and select ease out one more time, and also move it closer to the ending keyframe. So let's play this now and see what it looks like. You can see it's gradually looking like a real world animation. One more thing we will do to make it look much more realistic is that we are going to add an easing, because if you throw an object up, it's going to come back. Now for a free fall object, the speed is slowest when you released it and is at the fastest before hitting the ground. But for an object you are throwing up, the speed is at the highest at that point you are throwing it, and it's at the slowest when it gets to the peak before coming to the floor, or before returning to the floor. So we will now come over to this side and right click and select ease in. You see, let me zoom in here so you see. By the way guys, if this is getting much more confusing, forget about it. It's because you've not practiced it. If you practice it, believe me, it's going to become much more clearer to you. So what I will do now is to drag this thing closer to this one. So what this will do for us now is that once the object, remember I told you that the peak or the height of this thing is indicating the speed. So what it's going to do that at the moment where it hits the ground, it's not going to waste time. Immediately it's going to bounce up again. Then if it gets to the top, it's going to slow down and gradually descend. So let's play this animation now and see what we get. You see it's coming to life now. Now this is not a motion graphics animation, otherwise I will continue to do this till it bounce like 3 times before coming to rest. But these are the things you can do in your free time. So let's continue. Let's delete this and move on to the next property of our keyframe. And the next property we'll be discussing is the hold keyframe, which is like freezing a moment. Now, this is where things get fun. The hold keyframe, instead of moving smoothly between 2 keyframes, Premiere Pro just holds the value until the next one. So let's get into practice. Let me hit this toggle animation to remove the keyframes we've added to this. And now let me animate this thing again from top to bottom. Let me hit the position, the initial position. Remember to always set your initial position, because this is what Premiere Pro will recognize. Let's say I just head over to this side now and move this to the bottom and then hit keyframe. If I come over here and press play, you will see nothing will happen. So always ensure to set your initial keyframe before setting your final keyframe. Now let's just move this thing to the top and press play. Let me move it closer. It's very slow. So you see, by pressing play, Premiere Pro automatically fills up this gap That is this gap in between. So now let's do something different. Let's right click here, temporal interpolation. So it's called interpolations. So instead of ease in or ease out or busy or linear, we'll click on hold. Now let's see what will happen now. Let me zoom in to this place so you see what's going to happen. So if I press play on my timeline, you see, nothing happens. Premiere Pro will hold this ball at the top till it gets to this one. This is because our keyframe is on hold. Now let's do a simple practice with this hold animation. Let's say we want to introduce our character. Let me play this so you see the video we are working with. Okay, so at this point, let's say you want your video to freeze at a particular point. Simply get to the point you want it to freeze, then cut it, then right click, then add frame hold. In After Effects, it's called freeze frame. So let's click add frame hold. You notice that if our video plays from here to here, it will stop. You understand? So let's say we want to introduce this character. Let's animate a text. Let's call him James Bond. Let's type in James Bond and make it bold and increase the size. Let's give it a black hue because our background is light. So let's say so that it be much visible. Let's say we want to animate this James Bond character and we want this text to move let's say from here off the screen to the screen and off the screen again. So let's create the animation. Remember, you first set your initial keyframe. Let's move it off the screen and add a keyframe. Then let's come here at the point we want it to show and reset so it brings it to the screen. And let's come here again. That is at this point we want it to go off the screen. Now let's move it back again off the screen. So if we hit play now, see what we get. You see, it's quickly, let me move this thing back a bit so it stays longer. You see, it quickly hits and go. It quickly hits and go. So one of the things we can do is to come here. First of all, let's add ease out animation here. Ease out animation. And let's say as it gets here, we want it to stay because that's actually what we want. We want it to stay so that people will be able to read it before going back. We can now come here and right click and click on hold keyframe. So see what will happen now. You see, when it gets here, it stopped. So one of the things we can do is to move this one in so that it gradually moves in and doesn't look too robotic. Maybe we can as well shift this one a little bit this way. So it moves in with speed, then holds the keyframe until when we want it to release it. So what we would do now is now move this one a little bit, and I will come here, copy this keyframe, paste it here, then right click and remove it from hold. Maybe, and right click and select ease out. So let's play it now. You can see that now, guys. And if you want to unfreeze your clip from here now, we would have done this at the beginning though, but in case you forgot to do it at the beginning, you could just come here at the point before the freeze frame, stretch this clip, then cut it from here. So if I play my video now, see what I get. One of the things I could do is to start playing the video again immediately at the point of releasing. So this is a basic animation. You could get creative with it as you start practicing. Now let's do something much more fun with keyframes. Let's duplicate this text and remove this animation here. Okay. So let's try and recreate this popular stuff you see in motion graphics, whereby a text will bounce in and then move out of the keyframe or move out of the frame. So let's do it here with this text. Let's say we don't just want this text to move from left to right or to move from off screen in screen. Let's say we want it to bounce then move off the screen. Let's do that now. Okay, so let's select the text and scale it down to 0. Yes. And let's say from here, let me freeze this thing, or let's do it here. So that we don't get any distractions. Let's say from here we now want it to scale to 100. Let's reset it to 100, and to here we want it to move off screen. So let's reduce it back to 0. So let's hit play. You see, that's a basic animation. Okay, one of the things we could do is to right click here and select ease out. This is no longer a 4 animation, guys. So let's do something much more interesting. Let's hit play after easing out. You see, we are slowly getting there. Okay. So for us to create a bounce animation, we'll have to do a little follow through. I think in the 12 principles of animation, this is called an overshoot. So instead of bringing it to 100, what we'll do is we'll scale it a little bit above 100. Let's say 106 or 107. Then in the next keyframe, we'll bring it back to 100. Or let's say we bring it a little bit below 100. Let's say 97 or 96. 96 will work. Then let's bring it to 100 here. Let's return it to 100. So let's hit play now and see what we get. You can see we are getting that bounce animation now. So what we can do now is here, we can hold this keyframe. We can hold this keyframe, and then from here we can now ease it out. Okay, before we now move out, we will now scale it up. Let's exaggerate it, then let's play it now. It looks basic. Let's now add an ease out animation to this. We are not adding ease out animation. Let me just play it now. Okay, so what we can do now, let's make this one linear. Let's ease in on this one. So that it will hold it a little bit before now moving out rapidly. So now we've gotten the effect we want. So the more you practice these things, the more you get better doing it. Now, a quick recap of what we've discussed so far. One is how to set keyframe animations using this stopwatch button. And we also discussed that you can animate either of these features: scale, rotation, and also the anchor point. The same thing, it works the same way even with text as with image. Let me move this text over to this point. Let's make it white so that we can see it. Okay, so now let me remove the keyframe animations and align it to the center. Okay, so now let me move the anchor point. Let me, so you can see it. Let me move the anchor point of this thing up and rotate this. You can see the text will no longer rotate from the center. So that's the importance of anchor points. And the next thing we discussed is how to use ease in or ease out to smoothen your animations to make them look much more interesting. We also discussed on hold keyframes for snappy and dramatic jumps. Remember, keyframing is like learning to flow with your clips. The more you practice, the smoother your edits will look. Keep experimenting, keep practicing, and I will see you in the next tutorial.